Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. You know, folks, the more we learn about Stefan Stearns and the more we understand this case, and there's actually two cases, of course, then the one is the trial for the SA, the 80 or more charges of SA he has that could put him in prison for the rest of his life. And then we find out, more reporting on it about his emails from jail to his parents on how he's trying to implicate Jennifer Soto, and she may very well be involved in this. In fact, I believe she is involved in this, and why she has not yet been taken to task, why she has not yet been arrested. The only thing I can think of is that perhaps they think she would be more valuable as a witness against Stefan Stearns than she would to charge her. And that's a decision by the prosecutor. But another big question that comes up, on the night of Madeline's murder, where Stefan Stearns was seen driving in the car that you see on the screen, the Lincoln, at 10:04, and he's caught on all kinds of surveillance devices. And the biggest surveillance devices we know about these days are license plate readers. They're all over the place. So there's very little privacy anywhere in this world. And his car is caught on these license plate readers going the route that he tells the police about, how he dropped her off at school, and except guess what? She never showed up at school. And almost every word out of this guy's mouth is an absolute 100% lie. And he's such a despicable human being. And I hate to even call him a human being. But this is one of his excuses when he was interviewed by detectives. My brain was mush, and I was on so many tranquilizers to keep me stabilized. I was having these rolling panic attacks and breaking down crying. Is there anyone that actually believes that? I have no belief in that whatsoever. I have no thoughts that this guy could possibly tell the truth about anything in regards to Madeline Soto. And when we learn some of the facts is that Jennifer Soto, Madeline's mother, allowed her to sleep in the same bed as Stefan Stearns. It's beyond description. I think we were all horrified by that. Just cannot believe that an adult, a parent of a young girl from the age of 9 on, would allow her to sleep in a bed with a man that wasn't even her biological father, so that she could get some peaceful sleep. That was her excuse. That's what she told the police. And had I been the one interrogating or interviewing Jennifer Soto, that would have somewhat shocked me, I think. And it's difficult to shock a homicide detective. But one of the things we're going to look at right now is the vehicle, the second vehicle that took a ride to the crime scene. And this was on the night of the 2/26 at 10:04 p.m. And this was at 3 different times. 10:27, because it was after midnight, obviously. And the times were 03:16, which is 3:16 in the morning, 03:35, and 04:30. And Jennifer Soto's white Nissan was seen driving the same path that Stefan Stearns had taken earlier in his Lincoln. I'm going to play a little bit from Court TV.
So the map you're looking at here is from law enforcement. And if you start on the left side, you end up on the right. That is the purported route that Stefan Stearns, they believe, took from the home complex to the resting place where Madeline Soto's body was discarded there in St. Cloud. So it's Kissimmee, Florida to St. Cloud, Florida. Now, There's a bit of a timeline here, and the big news is that there is a second car from the home, not the Lincoln, but a second car that takes the same route. Let me show you. February 26th at 10:04, Stearns is seen on body cam showing police where he says he dropped Madeline off. But then you go later that night into the early morning hours, 3:16, Jen Soto's white Nissan is pinged on a license plate reader. The report stated it took the same path as Stearns the previous day. 3:35, the vehicle enters the dump site where Madeline's body was found. 4:09, the license plate is pinged on the way back home. And then at 4:30, the white Nissan, again, that is registered to Jennifer Soto, arrives back at the complex. Let's go back out to Cody Thomas.
So I want to ask a few questions of the audience here. Who was in this car? Who was in the white Nissan at those 3 times, right? Who was it? At 03:16, at 03:35, at the dump site, the site where the body was found, and at 04:30, back at the complex. And I have a theory about that. And my theory is that driving this car was Stefan Stearns. So why did he want to go back to the crime scene? And I have a couple of reasons that I've thought. One is to retrieve evidence that he possibly felt that he may have left at the crime scene that could implicate him. Perhaps he thought, oh, I left this or I left that at the crime scene. That could have my DNA on it, or that could implicate me. So perhaps he drove back in the white Nissan to retrieve evidence. Another thing was he wanted to revisit the location to better support his lies, because maybe he didn't have a photographic memory of the location so that he could tell lies to the police as they interviewed him. And the third thing is that perhaps he wanted to move the body. Perhaps he felt he didn't conceal it enough. So he wanted to go back to the location to perhaps conceal it better. Fourth reason, this is the most macabre reason, but sometimes killers and serial killers, and I'm not saying Stefan Stearns is a serial killer, they like to revisit the crime scene, to relive their sick nature of their violence that they perpetrated. I think that is the most unlikely reason. I really feel that this was Stefan Stearns going back to the scene, not Jennifer Soto. Whatever reason he gave her for using her car, perhaps he told her the real reason. But I feel this was Stefan Stearns. Now, unfortunately, license plate readers and red light cameras and surveillance cameras along there cannot show who's actually inside the car. They're not that good, but license plate readers catch the license plate of the vehicle. So outstanding work in recreating this from the Kissimmee police to recreate what occurred on that night and to thwart some of the lies that Stefan Stearns was telling them. Go back to Live Court TV.
Thomas Report, I see it's getting dark there, which is appropriate right now because we're talking about not just one trip, but 2 trips, and the second one is in the dark.
Yeah, you see it. The sun is definitely going down here, Vinny, and we actually recreated some of that drive today. One of the main roads mentioned in those documents is this 13th Street. It's this big freeway down here that a lot of the side roads crossed over and intersected, and it's also where a lot of those intersection cameras caught those 2 cars coming out here that night on Hickory Tree Road. Take a look at this drive.
We are here in St. Cloud, Florida right now, about 30, 35 minutes away from those Venetian Bay villages where Stefan Stearns, Madeline Soto, and her mother lived. This is 13th Street. This is actually one of the roads mentioned in those court documents, going through a bunch of intersections with cameras, which is how police say they tracked his silver Lincoln MKZ out to this area. 13th Street, we've crossed over Old Canoe Creek Road, Neptune Road, Budinger Road. Lots of these intersections, as you look at them, as we go under one, we're about to go under one right now, there's cameras at all four sides. So it wasn't a hard lift for police to track him out to this area, again, 30, 35 minutes away. But the key here is, of course, they tracked that silver Lincoln MKZ out here using these intersections. There's another car, a small Toyota registered to Jen Soto, Madeline Soto's mother.
He actually means the Nissan. It's not a Toyota. It's a white Nissan. So he made a mistake. He admits it later on. It's a white Nissan.
That came back out here around 3:30 a.m. We don't know who was driving. We don't know if Stephen was behind the wheel. We don't know if Jen Soto was behind the wheel or both. But it was out here going the same exact route. The only difference is Stern's car left from the back gate of Venetian Bay. The Toyota left from the front gate. So the first few streets that the cars are tracked on were a little bit different. But as you look at those court documents, once they get out here at the intersection of Old Canoe Creek Road and 13th Street, everything lines up the same. Stearns was out here around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 1:08, 1:15-ish, before getting to Hickory Tree Road, where Madeline Soto's body was eventually found. But that small Toyota was out here around 3:30 in the morning and didn't return back to Venetian Bay or in that area until after 4 a.m.
Again, it's a Nissan. It's a white Nissan, not a Toyota.
So, we don't know who's behind the wheel, but up for speculation once that trial begins.
And Vinny, I think I did misspeak in that it was actually a Nissan, not a Toyota. But just to remind you that we are out here at this location about 40 minutes away from where they live in Venetian Bay, which definitely is out of the way, especially after 3 a.m.
Now, another part of Stephen Stern's story, getting to that, they asked him if he went anywhere that night, right? Like the night of the drive that the Nissan's taken.
Well, Vinny, you're absolutely right.
Local, it was all the rest of the family that mobilized and was beating the bushes. And
Did you guys drive together or separate?
I don't think we drove anywhere when we were looking.
You didn't drive anywhere?
Not that I recall.
Did you guys go anywhere last night? Was that media?
Maybe. I think Fox 35 or something was coming.
If it is, let me tell him to take it.
Okay.
So obviously the detective knows the answer and she's just letting him lie. She knows that that white Nissan was seen and she wants him to say, yes, myself and Jennifer took a ride along the road and where I dropped off Madeline. But he never told that. He never said that. So getting back to the possible reasons that, and I believe this was Stefan Stern's, it first started at 03:16 in the morning, where he's caught on a license plate reader, and at 03:35, that's 3:35 a.m. I use military time. 03:35, he's at the dump site. I believe he was concerned about evidence, that he left evidence, or possibly felt that he didn't conceal the body well enough, and maybe went back to do a better job concealing it. These are some of the possibilities, but there's no cameras or no witnesses that reported to the police who this was in this white Nissan. And you notice that when he was being interviewed by the detective, the female detective, he didn't recall if they went out anywhere. He didn't recall that. It was so hard to remember. He didn't recall it. So it's more than a hunch. I have almost no doubt that it was him driving that car back for the reasons I gave. Potential more body concealment, retrieving evidence he may have lost at the scene, and just, a nosy killer who killed this poor little girl. So all of these things, I believe that the police know the answers to, but they're not releasing the answers to that at this point. So who took that second trip to Madeline Soto's body in a white Nissan, and why? That's the question we have here. This is Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. Have a great day, everyone.
Whatever